Klaus Müller had worked for BMW in Munich for 32 years, trained at Germany's finest automotive technical school, and held multiple certifications in advanced vehicle diagnostics. When his company sent him to the Philippines to evaluate a potential partnership with a local automotive repair chain, he arrived with skepticism about Philippine mechanical standards. His first site visit was to a repair shop in Quezon City, run by a master mechanic named Roberto Bert Cruz, who'd been fixing vehicles for 40 years, despite never having formal certification or access to expensive diagnostic equipment. Klaus watched Bert work on a customer's old Toyota, using tools that looked ancient hand-forged wrenches, repaired multimeters, improvised testing devices made from repurposed electronics. "Mr. Cruz," Klaus said with polite condescension, "modern automotive repair requires computerized diagnostic systems, manufacturer-specific tools, and certified training. Your methods are resourceful, certainly, but they cannot achieve the precision and reliability required for professional automotive service. This is why BMW cannot partner with facilities that lack proper equipment and training." Bert smiled and nodded, accustomed to this judgment from foreign technicians. "Sir Klaus, we work with what we have. Many customers cannot afford BMW repair prices. We keep their vehicles running using skill and improvisation. Maybe not German standards, but vehicles work when they leave." Klaus shook his head sympathetically. "I understand economic constraints, but proper automotive repair isn't negotiable. You need diagnostic computers, torque wrenches, proper lifts. Without these, you're just guessing. It's mechanical trial and error, not engineering." What Klaus didn't understand was that Bert's trial and error was actually sophisticated mechanical intuition developed over decades of keeping vehicles running with minimal resources. Growing up in a poor province, Bert had learned to diagnose problems by sound, smell, vibration senses that diagnostic computers couldn't replicate. He'd learned to repair parts that German mechanics simply replaced. He'd developed improvised testing methods that worked when expensive equipment wasn't available. Filipino mechanics called it discard, clever improvisation born from necessity. But to Klaus, it just looked primitive. That afternoon, Klaus's evaluation tour was cut short when his rental car, a brand new BMW 5 Series, suddenly lost power on a highway outside Manila. The engine warning lights blazed, the vehicle went into limp mode, and Klaus managed to coast to the shoulder. He called BMW roadside assistance, but the nearest authorized service center was 3 hours away, and they couldn't send a diagnostic-equipped tow truck until tomorrow. Klaus was stranded in 90-degree heat, with a disabled luxury vehicle that his 32 years of expertise couldn't fix without the proper diagnostic computer. Frustrated, Klaus called the local repair shop. Bert answered. "Sir Klaus, you need help. Where are you?" 20 minutes later, Bert arrived in his old pickup truck, loaded with his primitive tools. Klaus gestured helplessly at the BMW. "The engine management system has failed. The diagnostic port shows multiple fault codes, but without the manufacturer's diagnostic software, it's impossible to identify the actual problem. We'll need to wait for BMW service." Bert walked around the vehicle, listening to the engine idle rough, smelling the exhaust, feeling the vibration through the hood. Then he did something that made Klaus almost laugh. He pulled out an old smartphone with a cracked screen, plugged a cheap OBD adapter into the diagnostic port, and opened a free scanning app. "Mr. Cruz, that won't work," Klaus said with certainty. "BMW systems require proprietary software that costs thousands of dollars. A consumer-grade app can't access the manufacturer's specific codes or provide reliable diagnostics." Bert studied his phone screen quietly, scrolling through data. Then he unplugged it and popped the hood. Using a flashlight and his phone camera, he examined the engine bay closely. He touched wires, wiggled connections, sniffed near components. After 5 minutes, he spoke. "Sir Klaus, I think I know the problem. Your mass airflow sensor connector is corroded. The sensor works, but connection is bad. The computer thinks sensor failed, so it puts engine in safe mode. Also, I smell small fuel leak near injector seal. Both problems together confused the computer." Klaus was skeptical. "Mr. Cruz, the diagnostic codes would indicate sensor failure. Yes, but identifying corrosion without proper testing equipment is impossible. And you can't diagnose fuel leaks by smell that requires pressure testing." Bert smiled. "Sir, I fix cars 40 years. I know fuel leak smell. And mass airflow connector corrosion is common problem in Manila humidity. Your diagnostic computer tells you sensor failed. It doesn't tell you why. I look and smell and touch to find why. Different method, same goal, find problem. He continued, I can fix temporarily so you can drive to BMW service tomorrow, or I can try full repair now with my tools. Your choice. Klaus's options were wait until tomorrow in the heat or trust this primitive mechanic. Pride warred with practicality. How would you fix it without proper tools? Bert opened his toolbox, pulling out items that made Klaus wince: a wire brush made from an old toothbrush, electrical contact cleaner from a questionable bottle, handmade dental picks for cleaning connectors, and for the fuel leak, a seal he'd cut himself from gasket material. This is not BMW certified repair, Klaus protested weakly. This is improvisation. Bert nodded cheerfully. Yes, sir. This is Filipino improvisation. Discard. We make what we need from what we have. For the next 45 minutes, Klaus watched in fascination as Bert performed repairs that violated every BMW service protocol, but demonstrated deep mechanical understanding. He carefully cleaned the mass airflow sensor connector using his improvised tools, removing corrosion that expensive equipment would have required replacing the entire harness to fix. He diagnosed the exact fuel injector with the leaking seal by listening to the engine idle and feeling minute vibration differences between cylinders, a skill that took decades to develop but cost nothing. For the fuel seal repair, Bert did something Klaus had never seen. He measured the old seal with calipers, consulted a worn notebook filled with hand-drawn seal specifications for hundreds of vehicle types, and cut a new seal from gasket material using a technique that achieved precision without expensive seal-cutting tools. That seal won't hold, Klaus said. It needs to be manufacturer specification. Bert installed it carefully, torquing the injector by feel. Something Klaus had been taught was impossible without a calibrated torque wrench. Then Bert started the engine. It ran perfectly. Smooth, idle, no warning lights, full power restored. Klaus stared in disbelief at the dashboard, showing no errors. How? He used improvised tools. No diagnostic computer for calibration, hand-cut seals, estimated torque values. None of that should work. Bert wiped his hands on a rag. Sir Klaus, computers are very smart, but sometimes they create new problems. Your BMW computer sees bad sensor connection, puts engine in safe mode. Now fuel system runs wrong, creates pressure imbalance, causes seal leak. Computer shows many error codes, looks very complicated. But actual problem is simple corroded connector and old seal. Computer cannot smell fuel or feel vibration or see corrosion. He continued, in Philippines, we cannot afford to replace parts every time computer shows error. We must find actual problem and fix it. Your BMW training teaches. Computer shows error code, replace part. My training teaches. Computer shows symptom, find cause. Different approach. But mine works when you have no money for new parts and no diagnostic computer. Klaus was quiet for a long moment. Mr. Cruz, I spent 32 years learning that proper automotive repair requires expensive tools, certified training, manufacturer specifications. You just fixed a complex modern vehicle using improvised tools and mechanical intuition I was taught doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what to say. Bert smiled. Sir, your German engineering is excellent. BMW makes wonderful vehicles, but German engineering assumes you have German resources, proper tools, new parts, diagnostic computers, certified service centers. Filipino engineering assumes you have nothing except skill and necessity. Both are real engineering. Both solve problems. Maybe Filipino way looks primitive, but it works when German way is not available. Klaus insisted on paying well above Bert's quoted price. As he drove back to Manila in his perfectly running BMW, he couldn't stop thinking about what he'd witnessed. That evening, he called his supervisor in Munich. Klaus, how is the Philippines evaluation? His supervisor asked. Klaus chose his words carefully. I need to recommend we reconsider our assessment criteria. I've been evaluating Philippine repair facilities based on equipment and certification. I witnessed a mechanic repair a modern BMW using improvised tools and diagnostic methods we don't teach, and he succeeded where our standard approach would have required parts replacement and specialized equipment we didn't have access to. I'm starting to think we're measuring the wrong things. Over the following week, Klaus spent more time at Bert's shop, watching him work. He saw Bert diagnose a transmission problem by the pitch of the whining noise, a skill that took 30 years to develop. He watched him fabricate a replacement sensor mount using scrap metal and basic tools when the original plastic mount had broken and replacement would take weeks to arrive from Germany. He observed him teaching a young apprentice not just to follow diagnostic codes but to understand how vehicles actually worked, mechanical cause and effect, rather than just code-based troubleshooting. When Klaus returned to Munich, he did something that surprised his colleagues. He recommended BMW establish a training partnership with Philippine automotive repair networks, specifically to study their diagnostic intuition and improvised repair techniques. We've become so dependent on diagnostic computers and parts replacement that we've lost fundamental mechanical understanding, he wrote in his report. Philippine mechanics working with minimal resources have retained skills we've forgotten. Their primitive methods often identify root causes that our expensive diagnostic systems miss, because computers show symptoms but can't understand context. The recommendation was controversial. Some BMW engineers argued that improvised repairs compromise quality, but others, particularly those who'd worked in developing markets, recognized what Klaus had discovered, that Filipino automotive improvisation represented sophisticated mechanical knowledge, not primitive guesswork. Within 2 years, BMW established an exchange program where German technicians spent time in Philippine repair shops learning diagnostic intuition, while Filipino mechanics received training on modern systems. The combination of German precision engineering and Filipino improvised problem-solving created better technicians than either approach alone. Bert eventually visited Germany, invited to present at BMW's Technical Training Center. Standing before engineers who'd initially dismissed his methods as trial and error, he explained Filipino automotive repair philosophy. In Germany, you have everything: tools, parts, computers, training. You solve problems by replacing components until error codes clear. Very efficient when you have resources. In Philippines, we have almost nothing. We must understand why component failed, not just that it failed. We develop senses: hearing, smell, touch that computers cannot replace. We learn to repair what you replace. Not better than German method, different, necessary when you cannot afford replacement. He concluded, discard improvisation is not lack of proper method. It is different method born from different reality. Your diagnostic computer is sophisticated tool for technicians with resources. My ears and hands and 40 years of experience are sophisticated tools for technician with no resources. Both are real engineering. Maybe someday, best automotive repair combines both German precision with Filipino improvisation. Today, Klaus keeps a photo in his Munich office. Bert fixing the BMW on the Philippine highway using improvised tools and mechanical intuition that 32 years of German training had taught Klaus were impossible. Below it, a note Klaus wrote, "To the primitive Filipino mechanic who fixed what I couldn't, using tools I didn't respect and skills I didn't know existed. He taught me that sophisticated engineering isn't measured by equipment cost, it's measured by depth of understanding, and sometimes the deepest understanding comes from those who've had to solve problems without the luxury of replacing parts or consulting computers." The German mechanic who laughed at Filipino improvisation now teaches that the best mechanics combine precision with intuition, and that discard isn't lack of proper training, it's mastery of a different kind.